Have you ever watched a tennis match with your friend, not understood what's going on, or found it really boring? Don't worry, a lot of people have been there, and that's just because you don't understand the sport. Tennis is an extremely mental sport that's very complicated. The scoring is complicated, the lines of the court are complicated, and the shots are complicated. And I played 5 years of tennis, and in my 5 years I played collegiately, and I teach tennis to little kids now. So I'm going to help you understand tennis so that you can enjoy watching it. So the easiest place to start is the court. Now the court is a large rectangle split in the middle by a net. The back of the court has a line called the baseline, and up two sides of the court are both of the alleys. Now the outside line of the alleys is the doubles line, and that's what you use when you're playing with doubles. Doubles means you have two people on each side of the court. Now the inside of that line you'll use for singles, and this is how you tell when a ball is in or out. Now halfway in the court is the service line. This is an important line because the ball has to bounce before the service line in a serve in order for it to land in the service box. Now the service box is the line that's made from the perpendicular line from the net and the service line together. They split it in half and it makes two services box. So now that you know the lines, we can talk about the shots of tennis. Alright, so there's three important sets of shots. There's ground strokes, the serve and return, and net play. First, I'm going to talk about the serve. Many of my coaches, in fact, my coach talked to me last week about how important the serve and return is. If you don't have these two shots, you don't have any of the game. Now, the serve is where you toss a ball up in the air and you hit it with a racket. If any of you guys have seen volleyball, you'll notice it's the exact same serve, just with a racket. Another way to look at it is the serve is a lot like a pitch in baseball. The pitcher has got to get it through over the plate and into the strike zone in order for it to count. Same thing with serving, you've got to get the ball up in the air, into the racket, and into the service box in order for it to count. Just to give you an idea of how fast the pros go, the ATP World Tour website has Samuel Groff as the fastest record serve with an ace at 163.4 miles per hour in 2012. Imagine returning that. Speaking of returning, the return is where you get served and you just hit a simple ground stroke back. The whole point of a return is just to get the ball in the court so that you can move on to ground strokes. It's a lot like being a hitter in baseball. When you're batting, you want to get the ball out and into the diamond. You want to get the ball out and into the court for tennis. Now, I mentioned a couple seconds ago ground strokes. There are two basic types of ground strokes, the forehand and the backhand. The forehand is a shot hit only with your dominant hand. If you take me, for example, I'm left-handed. So when I hit a forehand, I line up on the left side of my body with my left hand to swing and follow through. Maybe an idea is if you imagine playing Rafael Nadal. You've just hit a great shot, and you see him take his left hand, because he's left-handed too, and just swing and kill a ball back to you. Now, if you get it, that's up to your imagination. Perhaps you used a backhand to hit. Now, a backhand is slightly more complicated. There are two different variations. You can do a one-handed backhand, which is just using your dominant hand on your non-dominant side, or you can use a two-handed backhand. And a good example of a two-handed backhand would again be Nadal. He hits two-handed, so you go one hand on the bottom and one hand on the top, and you swing through, a lot like Tiger Woods in golf. It's a very similar swing, except for in tennis, we start a little higher. A good example of a one-handed would be Roger Federer. Once you've mastered ground strokes, your coaches will most likely move you up to volleys. Now, volleys are just the short, sweet little punches that you do at the service line. Volleys are very much about the service line, and they're very quick and very reflexive. There's also a shot called the overhead, which is like a serve, but you don't throw the ball up. The ball is already hit up to you. So that's just the basics of volleys. I'd like to move on to scoring, because scoring is a lot more complicated than a lot of other sports you might see on TV. To start off with, we have sets. When we're playing a match, we're usually playing 2 out of 3 sets. Now this means that we're going to play an individual set. Now the only time you'll play 3 out of 5 is if you're a man playing in an open, like the US Open, which is coming up soon. In fact, 3 out of 5 is really hard to play, and Roger Federer said that there are no shortcuts in best-of-5 set matches. So when you play a set, you're going to play a certain amount of games. Games will make up sets. So you play 6 games for every set, but you have to win by 2. So if, for example, I was playing Serena Williams, then If we were tied at 5 all, we'd have to play to 7 to see who could win by 2. Now, games are made up of points. I know it sounds a little complicated, but points are pretty easy. It's simple. You start at love off, which means that you have no points. It's 0-0. When the first person gets a point, it'd be 0-15. From there, it goes to 30, and then to 40. And if you get it 40 all, you have deuce. And then you have to win by 2, which is the theme of scoring, and go play a deuce point and an add point. All that means, in simple language, is you have to play 2 more points in order to win the game. If you remember nothing else about scoring, just remember that you have to win by 2. It'll save you a lot of time. So, now that I've explained the basics of tennis, the court lines and how to call a ball in and out, the shots that you need, the ground stroke, the one-handed forehand, two-handed backhands, some volleys, the serve, which is very important, and the scoring, you should be ready to sit down and watch the US Open. And if you're brave enough, you can even head out on the courts to start hitting. Just remember one thing that Rafael Nadal said. Competing or just for fun, whatever. Simply enjoy and try your best. Thank you.